Sarah, thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure. Look, with these podcasts, we like to go back all the way to the beginning, early days, education, how you got into the world of education, really. And take us back.
Okay, so when I was 16, left school, I was working in a shoe shop, went to college, did business and finance, and then decided that I wanted to work in a bank and went to work in a bank.
Nice.
Worked for Abbey National and did mortgages in a mortgage centre. I think I would have carried on doing that, but things came to a closure. They moved the offices to Sheffield, so from Derby. So I ended up having to look for new work. I went to a mortgage company, a mortgage advisor, and did that for several years. And then I had 3 children in succession whilst I was in mortgages, and decided that I wanted to go work part-time. It was better for childcare. And ended up working for a car dealership.
Right, okay.
And that's where I started people watching and understanding how people work. I didn't like doing the admin bit, but I did like seeing people and trying to work out what was driving them. And then from that, I did that for quite a few years whilst I got young children.
Yeah, all part-time?
All part-time, yeah. But whilst I was doing that, because I'm not the type of person that can sit still, I decided to set up a toddler group.
Ah, right, okay.
And again, it was to meet people, people with young children. We had a really successful toddler group. Word got around in the community. And it was really nice to give something back.
What was it called?
It was called Little Flowers.
Oh, lovely. There's one of our listeners, actually, that's got a toddler group.
Oh, is there?
In Australia. So,
wow.
well, big shout out to them. They'll definitely check in on there. So, they set up on the Gold Coast, doing toddler group, literally talking about this yesterday. So did you bring your children in then? Was that how it was?
Yeah.
So you could look after them while working?
That's it, exactly. And then I did a lot of voluntary work. And then from that, I went to work for the local authority. So decided that I really wanted to make a difference. So we worked on the Think Family and parenting programmes agendas, which were big government agendas at the time, in commissioning in Derby City. And I absolutely loved it. I ran 3 budgets and absolutely loved working with parents and with commissioners through this Think Family agenda. But it came to a closure because, like all funding streams, it was only temporary. So I had to start looking for something else. My children were keen for me to be around in school holidays because, they were having to be looked after by grandparents and wanted to spend time with me. So I thought, right, well, maybe schools are the answer. So started looking at schools, got a job in a school, and that's where it all started, really. It's been non-stop ever since. Yeah,
so you were driven by, I guess, family was a lot of it, and you'd already had a taste of it, I guess, with the toddler kind of groups, working with children and young people. So then you fell back into it. What was the first job then? What did you apply for?
So it was just admin job in a school office. But then I ended up on attendance, driving forward different initiatives within the school. And I really loved it. Yeah. Working with young people and getting to know young people. It was a big school. Yeah. But it was fun. It was quite a deprived area. Right. So a lot of the children didn't have much. Yeah. So there was an element of, trying to raise funds and do what you could to get things for free for children.
It's tough. It is tough. I see it all the time, and just, funding streams come and go, don't they? And you've just got to be quick. You've got to be kind of on it. It's obviously your experience, I guess, from it was the local authority you were at, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That you were then like, what can we tap into? So how long ago was that then that you got that first role at the school?
Oh, it would have been about 14 years ago.
Oh, wow, right. Okay, so a big part of your life now has been within the education system.
Huge part of my life, yeah.
So from the office, admin, obviously listening to your story, you've obviously got a bit of ambition to do more.
A lot of ambition, yeah.
So what was the move after the office?
So I got my school business manager qualifications, and from there was given opportunities in business management, worked my way up and was a business manager. However, the trust I was working for didn't actually believe in business managers within school settings. Right. They liked the central office to deal with a lot of the budgets, and so there was little control. It was slowly being taken away. So I decided that it was time to make a change. So I went to a special school, St Clair's, and I love St Clair's. I wouldn't be anywhere else. It's my favourite place to be. It's my favourite employment that I've ever had. I'm really passionate about that school.
As business manager?
I am business manager, yeah. At
St Clair's?
That's right.
Yeah.
Although now I'm actually executive business manager across 2 settings now.
Yeah.
So earlier in the year, I secured a position permanently. Although I've been doing it for a little while, since last year, it became permanent this year. And I have an alternative provision as well. So.
Oh, superb. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the day-to-day life of business manager and what you do. Because I've interviewed quite a few business managers, and I've never known such a group to wear so many different hats.
Yes.
So we'll definitely talk about that. Just on the your children, how old are your children now?
Oh, they're all adults now.
They're all grown up?
Yeah, between the ages of 19 and 24.
Right. Okay, so you're living pretty much just kind of in a world with, well, they've obviously now, flown the nest, as you could say.
Well, they're still at home because of the constraints of finances, but they're still at home. But
fair play. So going on to the world of business management then, what did you, before we start, training that goes involved, you taught then about doing your business manager qualification. Talk us a bit through that then. You've obviously not experienced business manager things before. You were kind of just, I'm going to do a course. And what type of things are they teaching you?
So they're teaching you the HR side of things, how to be compliant, financial regulations and how the law works, dealing with public money, the Nolan principles. So everybody that deals with public money has to know that they are having to use integrity, be honest, transparent. And that's really important. That's really important for everybody in schools, but more than anything for a head teacher and a business manager to be following those principles fundamentally. But they teach you to look at the whole of the school and across all of those areas, and not one in particular. So it's almost like training you to think about how things cross over. Because there's huge crossovers between HR, finances, health and safety. All these areas all cross over, and you don't realise until you go into business management how important it is and the principles behind all of that.
Yeah, I was talking about business managers to one of our previous guests, and when I was at school, we were talking about, I never knew business managers existed, and he said, they did, it was just the geography teacher who would wear the hat, it'd be geography teacher by day, business manager by night and weekend. But in today's world, this is what this whole podcast was created for, is education establishments are run just like businesses, and I guess that your business acumen has to be at a high level, like it would be in any other business setting.
It does.
Would you say that?
Yeah, it does. And it's important to understand how you can impact that business personally, and how you can drive it forwards. It's really important to be positive. It's really important to not get tied up in those negative feelings or, being risk averse. Take risks. You can make changes. But what you can't do is sit still.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking about your own CPD. You have to remain current, keep on top of legislation. This is really important throughout the whole of your career.
Yeah.
Because the moment you become stagnant is the time when realistically you're not being effective.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. That's exactly the same for the construction sector, which I work heavily in. It's that.
Yeah.
So, things are evolving all the time. I think, sometimes you get into a position, you think I've made it, when actually the moment you stop, you're getting left behind, and you've got to be pushing new boundaries, aren't you? Sitting in a podcast studio and putting yourself out there.
Saying yes to things. This is me.
Saying yes to things. I did a podcast the other week talking about saying yes to everything. It was, and it's true. You don't know what comes from it. So,
and there's a business consultant down in our area called Laura Williams, and we, as a trust through Esteem, we have done quite a bit of work with her, where she's come and worked with the business management team in how to be more effective, be a better leader or be a better team, and how to get the best out of your day, and using some tools out of the toolkit to become more effective. And she believes in 10% braver, which I also believe in. I think sometimes you just have to say yes, be brave, and see where it takes you.
Yeah, fair play. So obviously wearing the multiple hats that you do, just talk to me about the finances side of things. Obviously you'll get, do you have a CFO at the trust, or is that you?
We do have a director of finance.
Okay. So they ultimately pull purse strings, but there's a collective effort, I'm guessing, from the senior team that come together.
Yeah.
Money's tight within education settings. It's got, there isn't a lot of it, and it's got to be stretched. What's the priority, would you say, for the trust in terms of when the funds come in? Where's the place that the money, like most of the money, funnels into? Is it on further education, or is it creating better estates, or is it creating better environments, or more staff? Or is it a mix of everything?
So with special schools and alternative provisions, it's important to note that 75% of your budget at least will go on staffing. Generally, it'll be more like 85%. So mainstream schools are around the 75 and just below. Special and APs will be much more than that. So staffing is really important. It's your biggest resource in those schools. Predominantly the most of the income is spent on that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that. You kind of think a pot comes in and then it gets distributed, but it's on staff then?
It is, predominantly. Your resources come later, which is sad really, because actually resources are just as important now. So we need those sensory inputs for special needs students to be able to get them the outcomes that they need. It might not be exam results. It might be that their outcomes are very different, and every child in our special schools will have an EHCP, which is like a plan for their education and health. But basically, the outcomes within that may be evident, so you may be able to see those. You might not necessarily see it through the exam results at the end of a year. Yeah,
it's really interesting. And then, just while we're on staff then, staff retention and turnover, is it big? Do you see a lot of staff coming and going?
We have, we don't lose a lot of staff. We do hold on to them. But, you do see people leaving the profession. You do see people going into retail. You do see people leaving for promotions. So we've had quite a few people leave to be leaders in other settings for promotion. But yes, I mean, there is an issue around recruitment and retention. I think recruitment is the biggest issue for us, getting people in at that first stage, those first few levels, and then retaining them throughout. Is less tricky for the special schools, I think, because people become invested. And support staff don't really do it for the money. They mostly do it for the love. Because, I know that teachers, obviously, they've just had that pay award, the 5.5% pay award. Support staff haven't got anywhere near that. Yeah. So if people were doing it for the money, then they would have left by now.
Yeah, it's a great point, isn't it? Yeah, I think that type of job, teaching, I always wanted to be a teacher just because I loved hanging with people, and being around people. I didn't in the end because I'm doing other things now, but you've got to have that purpose, don't you? And the purpose is to help. And I think humans, though, generally are that way inclined. Money's a different thing. That's, creates a whole new kind of, why people do things. But if we all had a world where money wasn't a thing, I think most people would be teachers. Because people do love to, give back and support. And I've done some work in some SEND schools before through STEM ambassador stuff. And we've worked on like green energy projects. And the relationship that they have with the pupils is nothing like I've ever seen before. It's so different. It's almost like a mum and dad type of scenario. Yeah. And that really opened my eyes. And there was almost like, it was so lovely to see. And as I've got older, when I was in school, SEND schools, even though they were about the work like they are today, there was kids just thrown together and they were the naughty kids. They were the kids that were doing well. They're the kids and I'm like, this is just pure mayhem, isn't it? So I do understand why, SEND schools are super important today. Within the trust then, how many have you got? Is it one SEND school within the trust?
No, so we've got, we are mostly SEND.
So it's the majority
14
SEND.
Schools.
And they're all SEND schools?
SEND or AP.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. So lots and lots of work going on then.
Yeah, an awful lot.
Yeah.
Almost 1,000 staff.
So I was going to say, from a business manager point of view then, you've worked in settings, what you call traditional education settings. The difference between business manager of, SEND and, your general, is it a big difference?
I think there is crossover. Yeah, there is crossover, but it is more intense in a SEND school. Staff are dealing with more challenging behaviour.
Yes.
And it's how it's managed.
Yeah. And
some of the staff have to understand that children are not always being naughty. It may be that they've got some needs that aren't being met, or that they are becoming dysregulated because they're triggered by something, and it can be something so small. But until they've come down from that de-escalation, once they've been de-escalated, and come down from that behaviour, you can't have those conversations with children. Yeah. And so I think some staff find that tricky when they first come into special schools, and it's getting people to understand that the most important thing is that the children are safe. Yeah. And so from my point of view, I see people come to my door when they think that something might be wrong, or they're struggling, it's affecting them personally, they're upset, or even, that they're taking that home and worrying and it's festering. It can snowball before you know it. Yeah. So it's about ensuring that they've got the right training in place. Yeah. And that's where, as leaders, the head teacher and the senior leadership team and myself, we all work together to make sure that we've got the right training in place for people that are struggling with that. Yeah. Talk to me about the kind of the grading criteria then, traditional exams within a normal setting, you do your GCSEs, you get your A's, B's and C's, and then you kind of then go off into the world. Is it different within a SEND establishment? Are there different grades based on, where they are? It can be, yeah. So traditionally, there would have been like the P levels, which are very low levels. That's a child that's really struggling to be able to do basic numeracy tasks, or writing their own name, those sort of tasks that we take for granted that a child just learns. Some children will struggle at that end because of where they're at with their learning. But But as a special school, and it is changing as the more cohorts are coming through, but as a special school, St Clair's has found that we are offering such a wide curriculum. We have children that are from all the way from P levels coming in the door to getting GCSEs and really good grades, like 5s and 6s. We've had some really bright students come through, and they have been our success stories. But we're finding that is less and less as the cohorts are coming through because the needs are more severe.
Yeah. So they go through the same journey then, through years and to the end, and then is it an exam set up at the end?
So there will be GCSE exams, there will be foundation level certificates that they can achieve. There'll be things like ASDAN, which is like more vocational exams, or rather coursework that they complete, and they get a certification for that. A lot of our children are now doing the Duke of Edinburgh Awards.
Right.
So we've been doing that for the last couple of years, and that's amazing to see them achieve. Even students that are really struggling academically absolutely thrive on those little expeditions that they do, and it's amazing to see them get that at the end. It's a real achievement.
Oh, it's lovely. I hope that, excuse my ignorance in this, but, I think a lot of people kind of don't see the work that goes in, especially in a SEND school. They kind of just, put blinkers on, it'll be dealt with. So kind of just getting this information is really key. Even, I work in a lot of education establishments, and, them questions might seem a bit naive, I guess, but there'll be many people watching that have no idea what goes on in a SEND establishment. So, I hope you don't think I was being, No,
not at all. No, I think one thing to note is that we have minibuses, and transport can be a bit of an issue with SEND students sometimes. So those minibuses are like a lifeline to us. We have to have them to get them from A to B.
Do you pay for them out the school?
Yeah, so that's another large cost that we have. So in my AP that I have, that I manage as well, we've just managed to secure a minibus for them. So they're actually now going out on their own enrichment activities, and they're thriving as well. From a sensory point of view, because some of the children in APs, they're coming from mainstream. They're classed as those children that are not coping, and need a quick turnaround of, sort out whatever that behaviour is, or get them attending school and get them back into the mainstream school again. So it's a very quick 2-term turnaround, which is great. But there's a lot of work goes into those 2 terms, as you can imagine, to get that turnaround and get them understanding that they are really important and that they need to put in the work. Because when you're one of 1,000 students, you become quite invisible. But when you're in a very small setting and there's only 20, 30 students in that setting, then you see them a lot clearer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. It really is. It's really interesting. So from the estates side of it then, obviously there's be a little bit more than your normal traditional schools estates, things like doors, roofs, windows. Are the estates, the conditions of the buildings, a lot more important, and things like locks and things on doors? Just talk us through what estate management's like on a SEND school. Yeah,
so at St Clair's is a 1970s building. It's difficult. Rooms run off rooms. So the main hall, all the rooms run off that main hall. So if you want to get anywhere, you've got to go through the main hall every time. So it is rather awkward. But we are having a big refurb. So the local authority have very kindly invested in St Clair's, and we've got a £6 million building coming at the back, and the trust are also contributing and ensuring that we get this refurb of the main building to create some corridor spaces in that hall. So we've got some extensive works going on. It started in July as our school closed to students in the summer. the work started.
Right.
And so it's amazing to see it going up.
Yeah. So if that, you need more room, don't you?
We need more room. It's about zoning areas off. You're right about the locks, Paxton locks.
Yeah.
They're really important to us, so that we can ensure that education is safeguarded and looked after in certain areas. So, for instance, when PE is going on in the hall, we don't want people walking through the hall to get to their classroom.
Yeah.
So we'd prefer that they went around the outside and went through external doors. So we're then having to make sure we've got Paxton locks on those doors, or somebody can let them in at the other end. So it does work very differently in a special school. Again, the same sort of thing in an AP, in that, you've got to have areas zoned off.
Yeah.
In the AP I work at, we have a Key Stage 3 and a Key Stage 4 side of the building, because it works much better.
Yeah.
So that we don't have the Key Stage 3, the new ones that are coming through, disrupting maybe the Key Stage 4 GCSE part of their education, because that's really important. Yeah,
absolutely it is. So in terms of the staff then, the guys that are kind of on ground then looking after it, do they get additional training to look after estates within a SEND school, like further more than what you would have done, things to look out for that don't usually need to?
Not really. That is something that's probably missing, I think. It really is down to the business manager to make sure that their estates people are trained in the right way. We do a lot of networking within our trust. We have an estates manager, Mick, who is absolutely amazing at getting all the guys together. They do some training together, of the obvious ones like asbestos training and Legionella training. But as for SEND settings, there isn't really any training that I'm aware of. It's more the business manager working with the site people to make sure that they are doing what they need to do in their area. Yeah.
So interesting. I think it's just looking out, isn't it? For obviously, the pupils, I guess, are a lot more vulnerable, than a normal traditional setting, and there could be something somewhere that could catch somebody off guard, and you don't see it, do you, until it's done.
No, you do find that the site managers in special schools do stay in place. Yeah. That you don't tend to see them moving around. They'll stay in one setting because they understand it. They almost, my site manager is absolutely amazing. He's a former football player. Yeah. So he's definitely not in it for the money.
Famous one.
Fairly famous, yeah.
I need to meet him. Get him on the air.
I tried. Tried to bring him with me. So he's amazing, and he's been with the school for, I think it's 10 years now. So, there's not a lot that he doesn't already know. Yeah. But it's just about me ensuring that he's thinking of those opportunities that children have got to access areas that are not really play areas, and especially with a big building going up at the moment, it is a challenge. Yeah, we've been very lucky. Our students have been quick to have a look. They've been curious, but they've not been dangerous. So we're very lucky in that they've understood it.
Did you have any issues with RAC?
No.
You didn't?
No, we were very lucky.
Dodged some bullets there. That it was an awful topic, wasn't it?
Yes.
But fair play. There's quite a lot of schools. But I guess, what's the oldest school you've got?
It's 50 years old.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, close then.
Yeah.
But so none? You had no issues at all?
No, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any in the trust. We've got quite lucky there. But it is... We are dealing with buildings that are not really fit for purpose anymore, and we have to rethink those buildings and the layouts. And also, asbestos is awful, isn't it? Having to manage that is a constant worry. Yeah. My other setting is only 12 years old, so we don't have those kind of issues. Yeah.
On the older ones. Yeah, it is. It really is. And, I think just with estates in general, we do a lot of work with estates and they're a constant headache. There just isn't enough, not I say funds, there is, but you've got to have such a strategy in place. And it sounds like you've got an amazing team though, that are all
I've got an amazing
together.
team, amazing catering team, amazing site team, and amazing office staff.
Yeah.
And they are super. And I like them to be able to look at other areas and to be able to share ideas across other areas. So I've got a lady in my office that goes over to help out the catering team when they need a hand. And
it's a full family effort.
It's a proper family effort.
That.
Yeah.
I do love that.
And myself and the site manager have had to go in when we had COVID. We had 2 people off in the canteen. So myself and the site manager got our aprons on, went into the canteen and served food for a week. So, you just do what you have to do.
I love that. You do. We all chip in.
Yeah.
I think one of the first guests we had on, it was, Matt Burrow talking about, he came in as the head of estates and next minute he's having someone's been sick. Go get bucket out and clean. Made me chuckle that because it was kind of like, within a school establishment, even though you've kind of got levels, you all just come together, don't you, to get the job done.
You do.
And make sure everyone's safe. Everyone's getting, everyone's getting the right education and working together. It's what gives you that purpose, I guess.
Yeah. It drives you forward.
Yeah.
It builds a better team.
Yeah.
If a business manager isn't prepared to get their hands dirty, I'm afraid you're not going to win any friends. You're not going to make a very good team. But if you're prepared to muck in and show what you're made of, and mentor and coach people, I've got quite a few of my staff that will probably be successors within Esteem and possibly will be business managers one day.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So when you're watching this back, guys, remember, there's an opportunity coming. You've obviously been in education a long time. You can even tell, how much you love it, you do. You've been
I
in
live
it.
and breathe it, yeah.
Would you ever leave the education sector?
I don't think so.
Don't worry. I'm not putting you on the spot here, but
no.
You obviously, it's ingrained in you.
I'm passionate about it. Yeah, I'm passionate about it.
You wouldn't leave off, you don't think, now to go and...
I don't think so. We had Ofsted the other week and in the AP, and do you know what? It wasn't a bad experience. It was nice. It was pleasant. We got a lot from it. Yeah. There was a lot of camaraderie. The team pulled together. It just shows you what you can achieve.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky in the settings. I don't think I'd really want to be working in any other industry. There's not many places where you have, it's challenging, you have the tough days, but they are few and far between.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate.
Yeah. Are you outside of education then? Do you find you're quite driven by life and career and things like that? Do you do any personal development work, whether that's reading kind of books or working on your kind of self and business world?
Yeah, I do. So I sit on NOS Advisory Board, which is it's a national network of special schools for school business leaders. So I sit on that as a whole network across the country, but I also sit on the advisory board, which is just made up of about 12 people across the country, just in key areas. So I'm the person for Derby City, and being city based, I get a different perspective. So Derby is an opportunity area. Yeah. It has quite a high population of deprived children. So from my point of view, I like to think that I'm giving something back to my community as a whole.
That's nice. Yeah, I see that. It's a great opportunity to do that, isn't there?
It is, yeah. On top of the fact that it's networking with colleagues nationally, I want to give something back.
Yeah.
I feel that's really important.
What's your thoughts on cross collaboration between other trusts? I was speaking to some other CEOs before and business managers, and they've kind of given the impression that a long time ago, I won't say a long time ago, there was always this thing of trusts are trusts, that, they do their own thing, we don't talk to them. But over the years, you can see that changing. We're almost we want to collaborate, we want to share ideas. Where are you in that?
We do want to collaborate. Yes, we do. Last week I sat on a NOS conference. It was a virtual conference, and I sat with one of my colleagues from SENDAT, one of the directors at SENDAT, and we did a open mic session.
Yeah.
Another one of my
love it. I'll
do that moments. And so it was really nice to hear people talk about their journey and how. And one of my colleagues who is also in the network, also called Sarah, jumped onto the mic and said, I don't know how I got here. Sometimes I'm in a bit of awe of where I am and how I got here. And am I worthy of that pay packet I'm getting, And I said, of course you were worthy of it. Of course you are.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, but I was just little old Sarah in the office and now look at me. And I was like, but that's amazing that you feel like that. You are worthy. You have got the job on your merits and you are hardworking and you're still looking for CPD. Yeah. You're still pushing yourself to improve, talking on the open mic, talking to a whole network of people across the country. She's wanting to improve herself.
She's putting herself out there.
That's it, exactly. And that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, I really enjoy that part of it. And I've learned that a lot. I think sometimes with people in schools, you think, they're just there doing a job. But there's a real desire, isn't there, for personal development and drive and growth. And I'm learning that just by honestly speaking to guests. And one of the episodes says, push yourself. It's literally, it was amazing. He's a business manager, but he has ambitions to go on and run his own trust and do that. And I love that. And that's why, going back to the question of, do you think it's important that there's collaboration? It's by you tapping into what other people are doing can just give you that one bit of inspiration to do something different. It can.
And we collaborate with businesses as well. So we've been working as a trust, we've been working with Nottingham Trent University on sustainability. So there's a doctor called Dr. Rose Deakin, and she's been teaching us about carbon management. And we have these ambassadors within the schools who are driving forward climate change and how we can make a difference. And it's interesting coming to another city today because as I'm driving up, I can see the wind turbines going in the fields. But then I've also seen a power station on the way up here, still working. And it's really interesting to see that somewhere along the line, some ideas are coming into play. But then also we're still a bit stuck in the tradition of burning fossil fuel. So it's opened my eyes. I got into carbon management and carbon literacy by accident. Through the trust. It wasn't something that I was pushing for, but I've realised quite how important it is and how we need to educate the children in our school to drive this forward because they're the future. They're going to make this planet what they want it to be.
Yeah, they are. We did, you just reminded me, I work as a STEM ambassador, so I go in and do work with schools, and we did a green energy day at a SEND school. It was incredible, and they all had to come up with an app. And some of it was amazing. One of the apps was like, for every time someone recycles a plastic bottle, they get points, and at the end of the week, the app tells the winner. I was at the end of it thinking, we need to build this. It was so good. But they all built that themselves, and the idea was that you are the future coming through, and your idea isn't wacky at all. We need that inspiration from somebody, and that was coming from these guys, so it was amazing. But I'm with you. There's so many great people that can support that. And going back to what you were talking about there is collaborating with other businesses that come and support that journey. I think everyone's willing to help now, aren't they? And
they are. And even, so we've got a local recruitment agency, and obviously they're in the business that is in high demand because of recruitment and retention. So they are obviously, making money off the back of that. But at the same time, they're wanting to invest some of that money back into the system. So one of my colleagues I've been speaking to and collaborating with is talking about setting up like specialists in certain areas.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a school was wanting a specialist in speech and language, for instance, then there would be people that were trained and ready to deliver that within the schools.
Yeah.
So he's trying to give something back and think about bigger ideas. So how can we do things better? How can we train people up to just come into a setting and deliver straight away? So teachers, they might be agency teachers, but we can still train them up to deliver special needs education across our schools.
Yeah. And I absolutely love that. And I'm a massive fan of that. I try help like any way I can. Even like this, you know, we'd be more than welcome to kind of say to your guys, like, who wants to work in media? Come and sit in a podcast then for an hour.
And they'd be jumping at the chance.
So let's get everyone here. So,
they'd absolutely jump at the chance.
There you go. And it is them partnerships, isn't it, that you can form? And there you go. There's an offer on the table for you.
Thank you. I will accept that.
Yeah.
I'll take it back.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, there'll be children that would absolutely love that experience, to be able to tell you student voice is so important in schools right now.
Yeah.
It's their future.
Yeah.
We've got to listen to them.
100%. You've given me an idea for a whole new podcast, I think. I think I need to just run a second one and just call it like students. Student. Behind the students. Oh, yeah, 100%. And wherever, everything you've been speaking about there, support from the outside, there is so much support. And half of it, even though you're doing a good, there's still so much to get. You know, I work in the construction world, and the amount of free information you can get back in is just amazing. And, you know, and it's not that you don't know that, it's just there's maybe more than there ever was. But I do like how giving children exposure to the outside world. In my days, it was work experience, which I know is still a thing, but you go for 1 week in the middle of your education, whereas you can just embrace it into their world now, can't you?
You can, and let's face it, it's really difficult to do work experience now because, you know, they want to look at your health and safety policy, they want to make sure you've got your insurance in place.
Takes a week to get
it. It takes quite a while to fill out that paperwork, but in actual fact, they just need the experience. Yeah. They just need to get out there and just see the big wide world.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's face it, you know, those exam results are just a piece of paper at the end of the day. Yeah. Their experiences are going to see them through the whole of their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could take them to places across the world, you know. It could drive them to do something amazing internationally.
100%. And that's the part we almost have to kind of tell them that, look, your grades are important, but it is, you know, I talk about this. I do careers day at schools, and people say, but, you know, I left with very, very low grades. I didn't even go to college, but I had work ethic. And that was really important to then show to people. It's not all about that. And here I am now running a podcast. So, you know, if I can tell anybody, it's, you don't need that.
And it's lifelong learning.
Of course it is.
You know, and I'm a big believer in that. I didn't really understand it when I was 18, 20, 21. But actually, I really understand it now. I understand that you may have a career break, you may have children, you may have to go part-time like I did. But I want to say, to empower people, go back out there, learn, get your degree, whatever you need, do it, and you've still got a huge career beyond that, because we're working longer now, you know. Retirement is extended, I'm afraid.
I know.
You know, and it keeps getting extended. So, you know, you're going to be working for a long time, but do something you're really passionate about. Do something that makes you happy, because at the end of the day, well-being is kind of really important right now to people. So if that makes you happy, then it's worth it.
It is. It's really, I was exactly the same. You leave school and you think, that's the end of my learning. As I kind of got into my 30s, I realised that there's still a whole world to learn. And I actually then started to dip back into learning and doing more things and saying yes to a lot more stuff. But look, just as we kind of come to the end of this, usually we'd ask advice, really. I mean, you've kind of given a little bit there, but people that want to step into the world of education, do what you do, what advice would you give to people?
I'd say make sure that you keep learning. That's really my whole conversation today has been about that. Students, adults, whoever you are out there, just keep learning, because everything saying yes to things, being brave, experiences, it all adds to your professional development, and it makes you a stronger and better person. And we all want to be part of that team, that positive team.
Yeah, lovely. Well, what a way to end it. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I've enjoyed it.